day 472 of quarantine. We've run out of food as a result of the soft plastics. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Colt and Posey Fishing. And I did a poll on it to see what y'all wanted, so we're going to kind of go over everything about crankbaits today. We're going to cover all the way from your square bills, your lipless, your round bills, the whole 9 yards. I'm going to give you a rundown of what I do, where I throw it, and how I throw it, and so on and so forth. Stay tuned. All right, what's up, guys? So let's talk about our crankbaits. I'm going to cover everything from your deep divers all the way to your square bills, your wake baits, and so on and so forth. So let's talk about during the summer. Okay, I throw a couple of deep diving crankbaits that, in my opinion, um, sets me out for success. So one of the ones that I like to throw, I like the old Rapala DT20. These are real good crankbaits. They give off a different sound and vibration and stuff. They're made out of the balsa wood. So a DT20, that is a really good crankbait during the summer. And I'm typically throwing this around those rocky points and ledges and stuff like that. And I'm getting this thing either down on bottom or close to the bottom, and I'm burning it. So that's one of the things during summer. Burn your crankbaits. If you feel like you're not catching enough fish on your crankbait, that's because you're not reeling it fast enough. You can never reel a crankbait fast enough during the summer. So the Rapala DT20, and another one that I like to throw is the Strike King 6XD. These are really good crankbaits. I've caught a lot of fish off the 6XDs. You work them the exact same way. You're hitting those ledges, those points, those bluff walls, stuff like that. You're throwing this out there and you're burning it back to the boat. Now, when you get into lakes that has a lot of fishing pressure, they're getting cranked a lot or just getting beat up a lot. Typically, I'll throw the Strike King 6XD, but this is actually a silent version, so it doesn't have any rattle on it. Now, I'm throwing it in those clear water situations. By no means I'm not throwing this in muddy water at all. The whole goal of it is to sneak up on the fish and give it a more natural presentation to where they just react to it. They're not really looking at it, seeing it, and chasing it down from a distance. They're just seeing it go by, they're turning at it, and they're hitting it. That's it. That's all this is for. I throw these a lot during the summer. Another one. This is your 5XD. This is going to be around in your 15-foot range, so I use these a lot on like rivers. This is the Strike King version. Absolutely love it. They're great crankbaits. And during the summer, I'm typically throwing this bait. Sometimes during the winter, it varies very much. But if I'm throwing this during the winter, you're going to be slow rolling it. I'm talking, you just got it crawling over stuff. I'll get it down on bottom as soon as it touches bottom. I'm just reeling it just fast enough to keep contact with the bottom. So, sticking to that subject, this is a DT14. It's the Rapala crankbaits. I really only have two that I use as far as deep cranking. It's either going to be the Rapalas or the Strike Kings. I mean, those are the ones that I feel most comfortable with. Those are the ones that I catch the most fish off of, so those are the ones that I'm going to stick to. But a DT14, that's a great one. Same way during the summer, I'm burning this thing. During the winter, I'm just slow crawling it, as slow as you possibly can. Now, let's say you get in those shallower water situations into that 10-foot range. It happens during the summer, happens during the winter, but also the main time is your spring and fall transitions. That's when I'll go to like a Strike King 3XD. The 3XD, it just dives really fast, but it's got that same tide action that it's not really tight. It's got a wide wobble to it, but it's a pretty tight action. But I'll use this like in the creek necks, like if I'm going around a creek and there's that secondary point sticking out of the creek, I'm throwing this past that point and then I'm bringing this down to the point and then running it on bottom. Caught a lot of fish that way. Just anywhere where you're in that 8 to 10 foot range, I'll run the 3XD, especially if I want to get it on bottom real quick. So what I mean is, like, a really good situation would be like a while back. I say a while back, it's been a few years ago. I was fishing up at one of the Bear Creek lakes, And the fish, they wanted a crankbait. I couldn't get them about a square bill or nothing because it wasn't touching bottom. They wanted it on bottom the whole time, but they were close to the bank. So the 3XD shined because I was able to throw it right up against the bank, and as soon as I turned the reel a couple times, it was already on bottom, so we was just reeling fish in left and right. So that's where your 3XDs will shine. Now, one that I will use, especially during the summer, when I get into creeks and stuff, and I'm fishing around those laydowns and brush piles, stuff like that, buck brush, the whole 9 yards. A really good crankbait to use to keep from getting hung up and stuff. This is Strike King Series 3. These Series 3s, that's what they're made to do. They're made to go through brush and the whole 9 yards. Now, this is not a sponsored segment. I'm not getting paid to do any of this. I'm just telling you what I use. These are the lures that I 100% use all the time. So your Series 3 and stuff, they're going to shine in your creeks and your pockets and stuff like that has a lot of brush, a lot of cover. You can run this bait fast, you can run it slow, and it comes through cover very, very nicely. The only thing I suggest doing is swap it out to size 6 Gamakatsu EWG hooks. They won't get tangled up in each other, and they're very, very, very sharp hooks. So another one similar to the Series 3 that I was just talking about is your Rapala DT6. I usually buy these in just either a brim or a craw color. Those are the only two colors that I'll have in the shallower running sections, because that's typically where the brim and the crawfish are going to be. Not necessarily where they're going to be, but what I'm trying to say is that's they're mainly going to be on bottom. You're not going to see shad sitting on bottom. If I feel like I'm on a shad pattern in that pocket or something like that, then I'm going to throw a square bill automatically. But another good one that I use, now this one works during the whole year. I mean, from your winter, spring, summer, fall, the whole 9 yards, I'll always have one of these tied on. A Spro rock crawler. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is the nude series. The reason that I would buy the nude series and the reason that I have them, during the summer, when those bait fish are done spawning, they're really, really small. I mean, really, really small. And the fish get so keyed in on the profile of the bait that they're eating, the profile of, I mean, just the whole thing, the color, it's very, very hard to catch them. Excuse me, I'm still fighting this pollen. Typically what I do with these, I will take the front hook off and put one of the VMC hooks that has the blade on it. And I'll run that in this, and 9 times out of 10, they're just hitting that blade on the front of that hook. Another thing you can do, you can take the back off and put a feather hook on it. That works really well too. So this is the 55 rock crawler, so it shines in about 10 to 12 foot of water. I run it everywhere. I run it all over the lake. I run it on the main lake. I run it on the creeks. I mean, it's just one of those baits. It's just one of those baits that I feel like if I can't get a bite on something, I'm throwing a rock crawler just to see if I can get something to react. So this is another version of the rock crawler. This is just a smaller version. I think this is the 50 model. So here, I might have it on the bottom. Yes, this is the 50 model, so it dives to like 6 foot. I throw it in those shallow, rocky areas. Anywhere that the 55 is going to get buried in the mud or rocks or whatever, that's where I'm throwing the 50. But you work it the same way. You're going to be throwing it out there, and you're just going to be slow reeling it. That's typically how I throw it. I don't ever really burn it. I have a couple times during summer not really had that much luck on it. It just seems like it's one of those baits that works best when it's making contact bottom and you're slow rolling it. So, now let's move on to the second one. Let's talk about square bills. So, this is your Rick Clunn Lucky Strike series square bills. I like the rattlers. Typically I throw the rattlers in those muddy water situations, so during the spring a lot, when you're getting a lot of them spring rains, this crankbait right here really shines, especially during the spawn and stuff, or during the transition of the spawn, the pre-spawn, when those fish are moving back up in the creeks and stuff. The rattler actually has a rattle in it, so the rattler, right? But It just helps those fish locate the lure a lot faster. And there ain't a lot of people that throw square bills with rattles in them, so it's just kind of one of those things. It's just something different. Okay, another square bill I like to throw is the Strike King. This one's a 2.5. I typically throw the 2.5 in real muddy water situations. I throw it in the chartreuse, I throw it in a white, and a crawfish. The reason that I throw the 2.5 in a muddy water situation is simply because it's a bigger profile. They can see it from a lot further away. It's just a bigger bait. So the Strike King 2.5, it's a really good one. Now, all my square bills, when I'm running them, typically I'm not slow retrieving them. I'm wide open with them, throwing back out there. Like I always say, guys, hunt the dumbest fish that you can and catch them. If you're sitting there fooling with smart ones, you're going to have a poor day. So your 2.5 Strike King, that's a great one. And this is the Lucky Craft. It's like a 1.5 by Strike King or whatever, but it's the Lucky Craft version. I really like these square bills. They have a good motion in the water. The paint on them is wonderful. This is an American shad color. This crankbait right here really shines during the fall when those bait fish are real pretty, and you see them everywhere. It looks like glitter splattered all over the water. These right here work really well. So like I said, with the square bills, I'm typically burning them. Now, I don't have any particular place that I run these. I run them on the main lake. I run them on the in the creeks, the pockets, the whole 9 yards. It just depends on my opinion. If I feel like the fish are suspended, this shines, or if I feel like they're deep up in cover, it can replace a spinnerbait going through cover and stuff. So moving on, let's go to the lipless crankbait. So y'all know them as a rattle trap. So it's really hard to beat an old Bill Lewis rattle trap. It's got 1,000 different rattles in it. It's got a real tight motion. I throw these throughout the winter and I throw them throughout the spring. It all depends on what type of fishery that I'm fishing. If I'm fishing a real grassy lake, most of the time I'm throwing this out there, I'm letting it hit the grass, and then I'm jerking it out of the grass. Now, if I'm fishing, excuse me, told you I was fighting pollen. But if I'm fishing a fishery that's kind of a dull bank, it's just got some limbs, maybe a few rocks and stuff like that, I'm typically throwing this out there and I'm just cranking it through there. I might be trying to scrub it on the bottom or something like that. That's something you're going to have to play with and figure out on your lake. As I always say, I can't tell you exactly what to do on your lake. I have no idea what they're doing right now on your personal lake, so that's all in your hands, but I can give you some baits to help you maybe figure out what they're doing. So this is your old school Bill Lewis rattle trap. Here's one that I've had a lot of success on during the summer, spring, fall, winter, the whole 9 yards. It's a Booyah one knocker. It's a lipless crankbait, but obviously it's just got one knocker in it. I feel like it's something that the fish don't see a whole lot. They see a lot of the rattle traps with a lot of rattles in it. They get used to that sound. I typically only throw the one that has a lot of rattles in it during the summer because, in my opinion, it sounds like a bunch of bait fish scattering real fast. The one knocker sounds, I don't know, maybe like one big bait fish. I have no idea, but it seems to me that the one knocker and stuff shines a lot better during the spring and winter. So you got to have one of these, and I'm running it the same way. If I'm in grass, I'm letting it hit the grass and I'm jerking it up out of the grass, and if I'm on just a standard bank, I'm just slow reeling it the whole 9 yards. That's all I'm doing. Now, this is a real important one during winter. I caught a lot of fish this winter off this bait. This is the Strike King flat-sided crankbait. This thing dives to like 8 foot. Typically, I'm throwing this around rocks, and what I do is I get parallel to the bank. It's really hard to do if you're fishing with somebody because you're kind of cutting your back boater off. But I want to get parallel with that bank, and I'm making as long of a cast as I can with this bait, and I'm just slow rolling it over these rocks, limbs, whatever type of structure that I'm fishing. So just slow roll it. I mean, when they hit it, it's just going to load up. That's all it's going to do during the winter. Oh, that's the only time I'll throw the flat-sided crankbait. Now, sticking with kind of the flat-sided and winter transition, here's another one that I really like. This is a Berkeley dredger. They got them in several different colors. I just buy them in the shad patterns. Let's see here. Yeah, this dives to 8.5 foot. I really like these. They got a really tight action. They've got that kind of a square instead of a rounded lip on them. Typically, I'm throwing this on my casting rods, my 7-foot duckets, stuff like that. It's a lot heavier than a shad wrap, so I can get a longer cast on it and really stay in the strike zone for a long time with this. That's the whole reason I like these. But I'm typically throwing these, like I said, during the winter, slow. I mean, just slow rolling it. Let the fish tell you how fast they want it. And then the last one I want to talk about is the shad wrap. So this is made by Rapala. It's a great lure during the winter. The only issue with it is it's very lightweight. So if you want to get those long casts, what I like to do, I take a ducket, a Green Ghost or a Triad or whatever series ducket rod that you like, or whatever rod you use, and I have it on spinning setup. I do my 8-pound high vis braid, and then I've got it to typically a 8 to 10 pound fluorocarbon leader, and I'm casting it out there as far as I can, and I'm just slow rolling this thing back and letting it bounce off of whatever's down there. You get hung up a lot on these, so definitely have some pocket knockers, you know. Oh, my Lord, I'm sorry, guys. I'm dying. But these pocket knockers right here, I actually got one in my pocket from today, but these pocket knockers right here, you just stick them on your line, drop it down there, shake your line, and knock your lures loose for like $4 or $5 for like 3 or 4 of them. Awesome. You can't beat them. So guys, my setup is very simple. I'm throwing a 7-foot medium moderate action rod. I prefer glass. That's whoever's opinion, but in my opinion, it's got to be a 7-foot medium moderate, and that allows for those long casts. When those fish get it, you can load up on them, not have to worry about your line breaking or anything like that. It gives the fish a little bit of play where they can at least get most of the crankbait in their mouth. Now that's what I'm throwing on 90% of these. Now my deep divers, that's the only difference. Now on them, I'm throwing my I'm throwing a 7'6" Silverado cranking rod. It's a medium, moderate fast action. It's a moderate fast action tip rod. So that way I've got that kind of a little bit stiffer tip, but I still got that parabolic bend to help on them long casts. I can really, with that 7'6", the whole point of having a long rod when you're deep cranking, so I can get that lure out there further. If you do like I did for years and throw like a 7-foot or a 7'3" or something like that, it works fine, but you're just not going to be able to get that extra cast out there. I mean, I'm about out of spool. That's how hard and how far I'm casting my deep divers. So the last one I want to talk to you about, this one's very important during the fall. It's a wake bait. So if you look, this is a Berkeley, I think it's called it's a wake bull. Berkeley wake bull, the bill's pointed straight down. What happens is this crankbait stays right up under the surface. You'll see it just scattering across the surface. It looks like bait fish, just kind of, right below the surface. So, like I said, pretty much the only time I run this is during the fall, and I'm burning it. I'm throwing it out there, and I'm getting it back as quick as I can. They will wear this thing out. So, guys, that's the crankbaits that I throw. Those are the places that I throw them. So, your deep divers, those are going to be your main lakes. You look for your main lake points. Your ledges, stuff like that, your channel swings, the whole 9 yards. Remember where you're going to throw your deep divers. Your other ones, those are typically going to be in the creeks beside your beside your square bills. Square bills, they all kind of just depend on, you know, what's going on during that time of year. If I see a lot of bait fish moving across the surface and stuff, I'm switching to my wake bull or I'm switching to my square bills. I'm always going to have one tied on. But that's my setup. That's the whole 9 yards. That's how I use crankbaits. That's where I fish crankbaits. My setups, the whole 9 yards. So, guys, I appreciate you watching. If you feel like the content was more than helpful to you, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. I'll see you next time.